Hello, thank you for listening. This is the near-death experience of Mark, and Mark's experience occurred in December of 1985 and was documented on February 8th of 2018. Open quote. I realized my breathing was getting very bad, as though a stone was pressing on my chest. My eyes were closed, and I was just concentrating on breathing. I stopped listening to anything going on around me. The ambulance was too late. There came a moment when it was too painful to breathe anymore. I knew that I was going to die. Everything was black in my head. I was waiting for the moment when I just stopped. Instead, all my consciousness seemed to lift from my body and became centered in my head. I was without pain, although still in my body. I remember thinking, nature thinks of everything. The end was going to be painless. Interestingly, I was entirely conscious during all of this, in the sense that my thinking, mind, or self was entirely clear throughout. There was no gap in consciousness. Then I saw white sparks in my head, followed by red sparks. My mind began to flash in white, black color, like an old TV set. It was at this point that I thought I would simply lose consciousness and die. And then I seemed to jump out of the top of my head. I scrambled upwards. There was a black and velvety void. I remember thinking that if I was dead and had to endure an eternity of this, then it would be bearable, but rather empty. I looked back at my body and was repulsed by the dead thing. It was also a relief to be out of it and rid of my body. I saw what a burden it had been all my life. Looking about, I perceived a small spot of unearthly light in the distance, so I moved towards it. The light grew larger, and I moved towards it, whilst I felt safe. I was also troubled. I began to worry about the need to pray to a divine being. It concerned me that the truth might not be Buddhist or Christian, but something else. I thought I should pray to God to keep me safe, and worried over getting the correct name for God. Which religious tradition? All this seems quite funny to me now. In all this experience, nothing came to me with a name or a placard around its neck. I also had a strong feeling that I had died and done all this before. The experience was very familiar. I remember thinking, what? Dead again? And nothing done with my life. I also had a keen sense that I had killed myself. In my earthly reality, I had not killed myself because I had died from a severe asthma attack. I saw that my life and all the things that happened in it had been caused by me. Even a random asthma attack from having asthma and poor health from birth that seemed like chance was in fact self-caused. I saw that my life had reached a dead end in some ways. I had lost a sense of what it was for. I was in my first term at Oxford at the time, so in many ways there was no reason to see things in this way. But I was unhappy. And so the end had arrived in this form, and I had done it. The light became quite enormous now, and was clearly some sort of being, capital B. It was delighting in my return, and seemed to know me well. I say there was much laughter. The being was a presence of overwhelming and quite astonishing love, joy, intelligence, and power. I seemed to be taken within it and experience this amazingly joyous existence and being as myself. I felt what it felt like to be this great consciousness, intelligent light. Perhaps that experience was a gift. Other things happened after that. I seemed to become my smaller self again. I was determined to reach a point where subjective and objective distinctions dissolved, or rather, a point where the judgmental relationship between me and other might disappear. I find this difficult to explain, but I wonder if I had had some sort of previous life as a Buddhist. They are rather strict about not being taken in by post-death visions. Since I had never done any meditation, I seemed to know a great deal about concentrating the mind, which I found strange. I was shown in this post-death state how a still mind produces a calm line, and how a disorganized, unconcentrated mind produces a line like a mountain range. I remember thinking, this is how mountains are made. I was also shown the earth from a great distance. The earth was wrapped by a great being who radiated pink light around itself and the earth. It was a being of pure love. I wondered if this being who was wrapping the earth was Jesus. A point of the pink light seemed to throb at the mention of the name. I had the sense that Jesus was very dear to this being. At this point, I realized that I had really died. I was suddenly horrified at the thought of the suffering it would cause my mother. I begged and prayed to be returned, to go back, which I then immediately did. I was falling through what seemed to me to be an air or atmosphere of fog and mud and flames, intensifying as I reached my body. It was a relief to come round as I was being carried into the ambulance. I suspect now that it all took about 5 to 10 minutes. End quote. Mark. Oh, what a story. That is just amazing. You're merging, I guess, with the light. Well, people have said that. I know everything, or the great consciousness, or I became God. I think Mark really points it out in a different way. And by the way, Mark is from the UK, so interesting again. My liking those European NDEs. But what he says is very interesting. He says, I seem to be taken within it and experience this amazingly joyous existence and being as myself. Being was the capital B. Being as myself, meaning I was God. Well, were you God? Maybe you're experiencing what this being is, which maybe you think you are, or at the time you were, but you're not really, but you are part. I don't know. I don't know. It brings a lot of questions. But then his next sentence, other things happened after that. I seem to become my smaller self again. So interesting how you're kind of merged in there, able to experience it, and then you're back out like you were. And isn't it also amazing, Mark has a certain way of his personality, as every single one of us do, and all of these NDEs do. And interesting how we can keep ourselves there, who we are, and the questions that we raise while we're there is pretty amazing, and how we interpret it, and what we're looking for, and what we do when he talks about trying to then find that point where the other and himself were dissolving, but really didn't, I don't think. However, he was able to concentrate his mind and to find that calmness, which, of course, I think being able to be calm is super important for sure. And then his description of the pink radiating light wrapping the earth, and having the idea that it was Jesus, and then the light pulsating when he says the name of Jesus. Pretty amazing. Okay, so there are some questions. Let's see what we got here. Question: at the time of your experience, was there associated life-threatening event? Answer: clinical death, asthma attack, breathing became very bad. It was near Christmas. Ambulance was called. It happened while I was waiting for the ambulance. As I was propped at the kitchen table, my dad subsequently said I fainted. Question, rating your highest level of consciousness and alertness. The body is a great deadening weight. One can think and feel more clearly without it. Isn't that interesting? Yes, we could, but you can't operate in the world really without it. So, and that's why we want to operate in the world. I guess, right? We've got things to do, people to be. Question, when was your highest level of consciousness? Answer, there was no change throughout, but my consciousness became more alive and brighter after leaving my body. And Mark, again, I have to say that your description of your consciousness and how it moved to your head, and you're probably still in your body, and then bam, you were out. But you're thinking nature, while you're in your head, your consciousness was in your head, that nature thinks of everything. I'm going to die and I'm going to be okay. And it's just amazing the consciousness level that you had, and being able to express that to us. That was pretty neat. Question, did time seem to speed up or slow down? Answer, there was no sense of time. A life is a small being when viewed from the perspective of the greater whole. Question, comparing your vision. Answer, it is entirely different. I'm afraid it is more real. The world seems less real by comparison and is less solid. Interesting how that could be, right? The body's solid, but that world is more solid. Very interesting. Question, did you see an unearthly light? Answer, yes, beautiful. It was like going into the sun, but only to a light that is super intelligent and all love. Question, did you encounter or become aware of any deceased or alive beings? Answer, yes, the light was a being, capital B. I did not see any relatives. Question, did you seem to enter some other unearthly world? Answer, there was a clear realm of light beyond. I did not see anything resembling earthly landscapes and so on. The experience was more about being felt and a mental experience. Question, what emotions did you feel during the experience? Answer, I felt great joy and love and peace. Curiosity, too. Question, did you come to a border or point of no return? Answer, my mother's potential grief at my death. Everyone else would have coped, but I sensed that my mother would have been destroyed by it. Question, what was your religion prior to your experience? Answer, do not know. I thought there was more to life than the usual scientific version. Question, have your religious practices changed since your experience? Answer, yes. I follow and have been part of the work of the SHARE International Group based in London, led by Benjamin Creme. Question, what is your religion now? Answer, other faiths, New Age, probably more Theosophy through Benjamin Creme, Alice Bailey, and Blavatsky. Question, did your experience include features consistent with your earthly beliefs? Answer, both consistent and inconsistent. It was all new, yet not in conflict. Question, did you have a change in your values and beliefs because of your experience? Answer, yes. Ambition/competition is destructive. Do something good with life that is not against others or in competition with them. Question, did you seem to encounter a mystical being or presence or hear an unidentifiable voice? Answer, I encountered the light itself. And then, after this, some kind of vague guide, perhaps. Nothing as distinct as a person. Question, did you encounter or become aware of any beings who previously lived on Earth who are described by name in religions? Answer, uncertain. As I wrote above, there was nothing by name, but there was a response to my question as to whether a being who appeared to wrap the globe was Jesus. I had the sense that Jesus was certainly a great individual in his own right and beloved by this being, but was not the being specifically who held the earth. This is hard to explain. Question, during your experience, did you gain information about pre-mortal existence? Answer, yes. One of the first thoughts I had was that I had died before, and that this was a familiar experience. Dead again, I thought. It is interesting that I thought again. Question, During your experience, did you gain information about the meaning of life? Answer, yes. It is important to be compassionate. This is the most important and only thing. Question, during your experience, did you gain information about an afterlife? Answer, an afterlife definitely exists. The whole experience was unbroken from the time I was struggling to breathe, to suffocating, to leaving my body, throughout the experience, and then upon return. Although it seems that I passed out, in reality, I was at all times fully conscious. During the experience, I was astonished that nobody had told me that when you die, you see a great light, and that you continue in full consciousness. Question, did you gain information about how to live our lives? Answer, yes. When I asked the light what the most important thing to do in life was, I was told to make known the presence of Christ, of the Christ. I sensed that this bit of information might have just been for me. I have been involved with Benjamin Creme's group, Share International, and making known the reappearance of the Christ since my mid-20s. Question, what life changes occurred in your life after the experience? Answer, large changes. I became depressed. I saw my personality was too narrow. I was too restricted to contain or communicate the great things of the light. Question, have your relationships changed specifically because of your experience? Answer, yes. I'm much older now. I suppose one changes in relation to the experience. Question, was the experience difficult to express in words? Answer, yes. Nobody told me that when I died I would see a great living light. No authorities or people I trusted. No psychic or non-ordinary or other special gifts. Believes the experience was real and this can be seen, and there is also a light in life too, not just after death. This can be seen and experienced too. End quote. End questions. Thank you, Mark, for an outstanding documentation of your experience, and we appreciate you relating your wisdom, what you saw, and how you see it to us. It was an excellent, excellent story. And thank you out there for listening. I hope you have a great day.